Ma'am?
Yes, tell me.
Nothing, ma'am. I was checking if my voice was coming or not.
Okay, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, everybody please check your mics and videos once. Adjust your videos properly so that when you actually speak, you are not adjusting the video in the middle of the show. Okay?
Hello,
Sanjoti, if you could, yeah, you are audible. If you could raise your volume a bit, and if you could please do something about your hair. I forgot to mention that yesterday. Let us have a look at your beautiful eyes. Why is your hair blocking your eyes? क्या बात है? See, now you look so handsome. है ना?
Thank you.
Let your hair be a bit back, okay, and let us see your eyes and forehead a little. Great. Sushnik, very nice. Abhijit, good. Kapilan,
अरे
all. क्या इतना
yes,
टेंशन क्यों
ma'am.
दिखते हो? Kapilan,
No,
don't be nervous.
no, ma'am. I'm just seeing the. I'm putting the menti pole, everything, setting up.
Yeah, all the things are ready in the different tabs
Yes, ma'am.
and the credit roll.
Yes, I have
Right,
added
everybody.
it in the presentation.
Yeah, good. Everybody could just come on screen.
Ma'am, can you hear me or should I like increase, decrease?
It's
Nice.
fine.
This is okay.
Cool. Cool.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, everybody please check your audio once, check your video once. Kindly come on screen, everybody. Let me look at all the beautiful faces, please. Wow. Reena, Sudipti, Srishti, Ashika, Virochna, Grace, Swara, very nice. Pujita, Simran, Ishita, Abhijit, Sanjoti. Okay.
Good morning. To include that we have it as
Corner down, you will see three.
Streaming link. Please join the live streaming link. Few more teachers. Request few more teachers to join the live streaming link.
Anita ma'am, Veer ma'am is saying she can't enter somehow.
Yeah, no, that is why I'm creating that page.
No, but this it should.
Students also request you all please to join the live stream link on YouTube. Some of the students, 11C students, if you all can join the live streaming link. Thank you so much.
only discussion point.
Who is the co-host? Shruti ma'am, can you just remove some of the participants so that they can join?
Yes, ma'am.
Just remove some of the participants or the teachers quickly.
How come I was able to join? I think ma'am
But
is
that
trying since
was,
then.
there was place at that time, ma'am.
Acha, okay.
Now ma'am should be able to join.
Yes, ma'am. Now there's space.
Yeah.
You have to still accept the invite.
Whoever is allowing the entry, please be vigilant.
Ma'am, Anita ma'am, she has entered. Avita, Veer ma'am is entered.
Okay, ma'am is there now. Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am.
No problem.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning,
ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, can I admit more people? There are some kids are students.
Yeah. Ma'am, no, let it be. Let it be now. They have live streaming link, so let them now enter from there.
Silly ma'am. Since you have become the host, my host permissions have gone. So you will have to start the recording.
हाँ बेबी आपको मैं दे रही हूँ एक सेकंड वी डोंट डू दैट नो बाबा
Can I start now? Shruti
Neha ma'am, please mute your mic.
Shruti ma'am, can I start now?
Yeah, sure.
Leela ma'am
Yeah.
come because she will
Thank
also
you.
try to join, right? Leela ma'am come.
Neha ma'am, if you can please mute your mic.
don't know what I did.
Shruti ma'am, can we start now?
Yes, ma'am. Kapilan, please start.
We can't hear anything, Shruti ma'am.
Kapilan, can you start?
Yeah, please start. Please start.
Ishita, you may start.
Okay, ma'am. Good morning, Beer ma'am, Nitika ma'am, Shyam sir, Neelam ma'am, Vandana ma'am, Shavasti ma'am, Ashwathi ma'am, Anita ma'am, all the teachers and my dear friends. We also have an alumnus of the school, Radhika Kaushik, from the first batch of Pawai with us. The study of mathematics, like the Nile, begins in minuteness but ends in magnificence, said Charles Caleb Colton. Mathematics is more than just operations, algebra, shapes, and calculation. It is practically the way in which the world is created, the way in which we are created, and the way in which we create. It is believed that God is the geometer of the world, and today we would like to reveal to you man's sacred geometry. So sit back and enjoy our program, Tripstar TV, Travel Diaries with a Difference.
Hi everyone, welcome to Tripstar Travel.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Konnichiwa, namaste, adab, and shalom. This is Abhijit Sheshadri, your host on Tripstar Travel Diaries that make a difference. Now, before we start today's session, I would like to conduct an online poll. So grab onto your mobiles, go to www.menti.com and use the given code on your screens. You have 45 seconds to type what comes into your mind, the three things that come into your mind after seeing the image. Time starts now. Use the given code, go to www.menti.com, write the first three things that come into your mind, and time starts now. The code was 439619. You can see it on the screen. 439619. $25 seconds. 15 seconds and counting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Voting closed. Now let's see what the audience has entered. So if we can. So in everybody's mind, when they see this picture, they might think, okay, it's a rangoli, or it's a shape, or it's those things which we see outside temples or during festivals. Well, yeah, you're almost correct, but it's not that. It's something more exciting. It's something more inspirational. It's something more unique. Now, let me tell you what this really means. This is a mandala. Now, I don't know if you have heard about a mandala, but a mandala is a geometric design made with circles, with squares, with triangles, with straight lines, curvy lines, etc. Now, mandala itself means a circle in Sanskrit. With this mandala, you can indeed achieve calmness, relieve your stress, relieve anxiety, and become more and more peaceful. A mandala can reveal the inner workings of yourself and connect your inner self to the outer world. It is a fun, creative, and a personal way to explore your inner self, explore feelings, express them, and merge the inner and the outer worlds. It can also be inspirational and therapeutic. Now, all those who got these three things that popped into their head when they saw this picture, congratulations, you're on the way. Good. Now, we would like to present a small introduction video, so stay tuned. Well, if you have been able to guess today's theme by seeing this video, congratulations. Very well done. If not, let me tell you what this video officially introduced you to. As you can see, everything in this universe is designed with some mathematical core, and hence our topic today is sacred geometry.
Galileo Galilei once said, "Mathematics is the alphabet with which God has written the universe." Artists, musicians, and philosophers have long evoked the power of sacred geometry in their work, from Da Vinci to Pythagoras. Plato's solids are said to form the basis for every design in the universe, even down to a molecular scale. But sacred shapes also represent the intangible, mystical elements of life. In terms of religion, there is a long held belief that God created the universe according to a geometric plan. The great philosopher Plato famously said, "God geometrizes continually."
Sacred geometry believes in the fact that everything in existence has a geometric and a mathematical proportion. The corneas of our eyes, the flowers, the sunflower seeds, the galaxies we spiral within, the air we breathe, crystals, the shells, the stars, anything we can imagine has some kind of mathematical proportion to it. Sacred geometric patterns exist all around us and form the fundamental templates for life in the universe. Patterns can be broken down in language of numbers that govern our entire visible and invisible universe.
Ancient cultures around the world have long had this understanding of the fractal nature of the universe. Places of worship are a rich source for creative mathematics. Many teachings describe sacred geometry as the blueprint of creation. Sacred geometry is considered an ancient science that explores and explains the energy patterns that create and unify all things.
Sacred geometric symbols are believed to be visual instruments that have profound healing effects. Sacred geometry symbol amplifies our connection to the spirit and creates harmony within ourselves, between ourselves, and the outside world. Sacred geometry symbols have high frequencies of energy and light that can activate, heal, awaken, and transform. These symbols are like codes which assist you in your journey of life. So, what exactly is the spiritual meaning behind these various common symbols? Some of them and the meanings are the triangle. The triangle is a very common symbol, but the triangle is a symbol that underlies all Platonic solids like the tetrahedron, the hexahedron, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, the icosahedron, etc. The triangle symbolizes balance, harmony, and completion. The circle, wholeness, oneness, never-ending cycle of life, the eternal constant. It is often said to be the first thought of God. The spiral. Our galaxy is indeed a spiral. The spiral spirals up to connect the physical self to the higher self and all levels into the core of the earth. The spiral is the spiral shape as a double helix in the DNA of each cell. The spiral is indeed the most common found shape across the universe. And finally, the cross. The intersection of two lines is where heaven and earth meet, and the union is mankind.
So, these are the basic sacred geometric shapes that manifest the magical forms of the flower of life, the seed of life, the tree of life, the Hamsa, the pyramid, the Metatron's cube, Shriyantara, Pisces I Trinity, and Merkaba. And now we shall travel around the world, visiting the various structures that display not only the architectural beauty but sacred geometry. Our first stop, the mountains of Japan, where our travel host Ishita will be visiting Mount Usor.
Hello, I'm Ishita, and you're watching Tripstar Travel. Today we are here with the Japanese expert on sangakus.
Konnichiwa, watashi no name wa Swara. Welcome to Buddhist temple Mount Osore.
This is a renowned sangaku. These are Japanese geometrical problems or theorems on wooden tablets where san means calculation and gaku means black. Sangaku are commonly found either in the imaden of shrines or on the eve of shrine or temple halls, or situated attached to smaller shrines located in the larger complex.
Great. So we already know that Sangakus present mathematical problems which examine the geometry of certain configurations of figures. For example, one might be given a large circle containing 5 smaller circles of varying sizes and asked to find the value of one of these smaller circles given the diameter of another or any other figure such as a...
Interesting. How are the Sangaku problems presented?
3 things are specified in a Sangaku problem. First is the problem. This is indicator from the diagram the observer needs to find the value of. Second is the answer section. This section gives either the numerical value of the sought figure or advises to refer to the next section, which is the formula section. The observer to the solution on their own.
What kind of wood are the Sangaku made on?
Sangakus are made on durable wood such as hardwood. This one, Kansuvetsu Kampo Shiroku, was made on a canvas made of the hinoki tree.
Wow. This right angle triangle reminds me of the Pythagoras theorem. By the way, did you know that the Pythagoras theorem is actually the Bodhayan Sutra, discovered not originally by Pythagoras but by mathematician Bodhayan?
Wow, what an interesting piece of information. Well, about the Pythagoras reference, that's because Sangaku problems are found to be very closely related to Pythagorean and Euclidean geometry on areas and volumes.
Ah, those are some cute bunnies.
Aren't they? This shows that Sangaku is not only composed of boring complex geometrical figures, but can also be presented in a more creative manner.
Oh, I see. I will surely tell this to my mother. She loves bunnies.
Oh, and did you know the popular cartoon character Doraemon is also a Sangaku?
Oh, wow. What is the modern state of the Sangakus?
Sangakus were very popular in Japan during the Edo period. But sadly, by the 20th century, the tradition has been forgotten and only less than 1,000 Sangaku tablets have survived. Today, thanks to the efforts of scholars and mathematicians such as Fukagawa, Rothman, and many others, this tradition is experiencing a rebirth and a growing public interest as mathematicians worldwide revisit the original problems and even create new ones.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Swara. This concludes our tour in the Mount Osore Temple, where we learned about Sangakus. Tripstar Travel will be back at a different place to explore more about sacred maths after this commercial break. This was Ishita Panda with cameraman Vanisha Srivastava from Tripstar Travel.
A wonderful trip from the Japanese mountains to now the streets of Budapest, to the Dohany Street Synagogue. Shalom.
Hello, I require some help in exploring this place.
Sababa.
What?
All right. This synagogue is the second largest in the world, and Jewish people come to worship here.
Oh, this sounds interesting. I never knew that.
Let's proceed our way inside to explore more.
What's so special about this synagogue?
Synagogue architecture often follows styles in vogue at the place and time of construction. According to this tradition, the divine presence can be found where there is a minyan of 10. A synagogue always contains an ark called Hakodesh Bahikel.
Oh, wow. I'm also a mathematician, so I would like to know the maths behind it.
Well, the 6-pointed star, that is the Shatkona, is a hexagram and is commonly referred to as the Star of David, has been used in sacred traditions for centuries. even going back to King Solomon in the Old Testament, symbolizing the ideal state of Hinduism and magical ceremonies in occult practices. The hexagram can fit inside a perfect circle and is often associated with the heart chakra. The Star of David theorem is a mathematical result on arithmetic properties of binomial coefficients. It was discovered by Henry W. Gold in 1972.
Oh, that sounds amazing. He was a genius.
The Hamsa hand is an ancient Middle Eastern amulet symbolizing the hand of God. In all faiths, it is a protective sign. There are two symmetrical thumbs in the symbol. The Hamsa symbol is meant to symbolize the hand of God and is said to bring good luck and protection to the wearer. The eye in the center of the hand is said to ward off evil.
What about these floor designs?
These floor designs are related to tessellations.
What are tessellations?
A tiling or tessellation of a flat surface is the covering of a plane using one or more geometric shapes called tiles with no overlaps and no gaps. In mathematics, tessellations can be generalized to higher dimensions and a variety of geometries.
What does this tree-like symbol depict?
This geometric symbol is at the center of the mystical Kabbalah tradition. The tree of life is a symbol created from the connection of 10 different points or nodes that are created from the intersectional points between 7 circles. It represents the idea of common ancestry. In the Jewish tradition, the symbol is said to promote understanding of the nature of God. It is said to depict man's divine unity with the universe.
And this tree of life is theorized to have originated from the flower of life, which is another sacred geometric form. It is the symbol of creation. It is created by forming a circle, then moving to the edge of that circle and forming another one.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for the interesting tour of the synagogue. Got to know new things about this place.
Thoda Rabba.
Hope you enjoyed this visit.
Tripstar Travel will be back at a different place to explore more about sacred maths after this commercial break. This was Ashika, Simran and Shrishti from Tripstar Travel. Stay tuned for more.
An exciting visit to the synagogues of Budapest. Now onwards to the wonders of the Indian temples, live from Chidambaram, Tamil Nadu.
Welcome back to Tripstar TV. We have reached our next destination, which is the Hindu temples. A good friend of mine, Pujita, is here with us today.
Vanakkam.
So, Pujita, I recently read an article on the role of temples in Indian society. It stated that ancient temples were built not as places for prayer, but as a vortex of energy.
Yes, sacred geometry plays a vital role in the design and construction of temples. Within Hindu temples, one can see use of fractal geometry through the repetition of geometrical towers surrounded by mirror images of smaller, similar geometrical towers at various levels. This repetition creates the illusion of an object repeating itself endlessly towards a proposed infinity.
That's really fascinating. Could you explain how it is put into use in a temple?
Yes, sure. We are here at the Shiva temple in Chidambaram, Tamil Nadu. To the trained eye, the miniature fractals of the main shrine stand out in a well-designed temple complex. Including the Toranas, the Gopurams, the miniature shrines, and the Pushkarini, etc.
मेरे को पता ही नहीं कहाँ से करूँ कैसे
Or have been
how do I send a message
following the rules of fractal theory. The temple complex is in rectangular shape and has 5 concentric courtyards or prakars. The temple has 9 entrances, denoting the 9 entrances or openings of the human body. Each entrance has a gopuram. By walking further in towards the sanctum, the size of the gopuram keeps decreasing. This is how fractal geometry is put into use. Moreover, the stairs of the water tank of the temple were designed using fractal patterns.
Could you please
Vastu Mandala, called the Manduka, uses 9 through 49 Pada series, but 64 is the most sacred grid.
Wow, is sacred geometry used so extensively in temples?
Yes, The 9 kalashas on the golden roof are said to contain the 9 types of Shaktis or energies. Nataraja's big toe is the center point of the world's magnetic equator. Immediately to the right of Nataraja is the Akashalinga in the form of a Sri Yantra, an abstract geometrical design on which the deity is invoked. The upper part of the ceiling of the mandapa portrays an expanding mandala depicting self-similar worlds arranged concentrically. Each bloom from a single lotus bud is stratified by making a level difference. This difference in level and the concentric floral pattern makes the pattern for the spiritual journey to the infinity with unity.
Wow, I was not aware that the mere structure of temples had so much sacred geometry behind it. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Tripstar Travel will be back at a different place to explore more about sacred mats after this commercial break. This is Pujita and Rena from Tripstar Travel. Stay tuned for more.
Moving on, our exhilarating trip heads to the sandy coast of Oman, to the Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque.
So we might often be very confused looking at the designs in the tiles of the mosques. But how did they design and paint these beautiful paintings? In Islamic culture, geometry is everywhere, be in mosques, madrasas, private homes, tiles, carpets, etc. Madrasas is a kind of educational institution where people go for scientific study of Islamic culture. Now let's see how they are created. These geometric figures are mainly created by using only a compass and a ruler to draw circles. There's a secret ingredient in these designs, that is, an underlying grid. Draw a circle within a square and divide it into 8 equal parts. Then draw a pair of crisscrossing lines. These grids are invisible but essential to every pattern. The grid helps determine the scale of the composition before the work begins, keeps the pattern accurate, and facilitates the invention of incredible new patterns. The domes of the mosques are in the shape of the hollow hemisphere. The Mughals in India popularized onion-shaped domes in South Asia, which has gone on to become the characteristic of the Arabic architectural style of dome. 3 main geometric parameters that define a dome are meridian, pattern, and layers. Now let's see what are giri tiles. The 5 shapes of these tiles are a regular decagon, an elongated hexagon, a bow tie, a rhombus, and a regular pentagon. Using these tiles, they create the designs for the interior of domes, walls, and build ceilings. Mosque buildings typically contain an ornamental niche. It is kind of a hollow design that displays a statue or ornament that is set into the wall that indicates the direction of Mecca. This wall is made full of giri tiles pattern. Minaret is a type of a tower typically built into or adjacent to mosques. Minarets serve multiple purposes. While they provide a visual focal point, they are generally used for the Muslim call to prayer. The basic form of a minaret includes a shaft, a base, a cap, and a head. There are generally a tall spire with a conical or an onion-shaped crown. Islamic decoration, which tends to avoid figurative images, makes frequent use of geometric patterns which have developed over the centuries, be it rugs, ceilings, wooden doors, glassworks, and windows, etc. Tripstar channel will be back at the different place to explore more about the sacred mats after this commercial break. This was Sushni Ghosh with cameraman Kapilan from Tripstar channel. Stay tuned for more.
And now, for a final destination, to the great Parisian church of Notre Dame.
Welcome to the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, one of the finest examples of Gothic architecture.
Yes, I know about it. It was declared as a World Heritage Site in 1991.
Yes, Notre Dame de Paris, also called Notre Dame Cathedral, is a cathedral church in Paris. Tree and the use of golden ratio are found in the designs of Notre Dame. In the nave of the cathedral, we find a labyrinth on the floor made from white stone set within dark-colored marble. The labyrinth measures 1/10 of the cathedral's interior, which equates to the central point of the building's geometric construction. The diameter of the labyrinth is the same size as the west rose window. The distance from the center of the west rose window to the labyrinth is exactly the same as the distance from the cathedral's west portal wall. Putting it simply, the west rose window and the labyrinth form a perfect equilateral triangle. Within the cathedral, distances between the pillars, the length of the nave, transepts, and choir are multiples of the golden mean. The ribs supporting the walls of the quadrangle units of which the cathedral is composed of are the shapes of the golden triangles. In this structure, shafts and supports sweep unbroken from floor to ceiling to meet the ribs of the walls, like a tall tree spreading into branches in one of the most common fractal patterns. These arched exterior supports are known as flying buttresses. All the windows in the cathedral, be it the rose window, zodiac window, virgin window, incarnation window, or any other window, shows a distinct sacred geometric pattern representing different stories. You know, even the Christian paintings have the use of sacred geometry in them.
Oh, is it? Could you please show me?
The painting, Christ in Majesty, shows the use of Vesica Pisces.
What is Vesica Pisces?
In art and architecture, Vesica Pisces is known as the mandola. It frequently surrounds the figure of God or Christ. In the painting Christ in Majesty, Christ's hand reaches the mandola to break into the world. Also, one of the most famous icons using sacred geometry is the Rublev Holy Trinity icon. With this drawing, you can see the figures are arranged in relationship to the circle and contained within the square. The circle is the symbol of unity and God, in that it has no beginning and no end, but is energy in eternal motion.
This was indeed marvelous. Tripstar Travel will be back at a different place to explore more about sacred math after this commercial break. This was Sudipti and Viroshna from Tripstar Travel. Stay tuned for more.
With this, our trip comes to an end. We have traveled far across the world, from the mountains of Japan to the streets of Budapest, from the sandy beaches of Oman to the coasts of Tamil Nadu. However, through these different travels, one thing is clear. Sacred geometry is common for all. Irrespective of nations, irrespective of cultures, religions, or identity, sacred geometry runs deep through our veins. Even though you might not like the trigonometric formulas or the precision required for constructing geometric figures, it is undeniable that sacred geometry surrounds us, penetrates us, and binds us together.
Let's go! It's a travelogue. We're going from Mars to synagogue. Notre Dame. Where geometry is well thought of. Math is not only to study life. I wanna show you all the fun.
time. So X is the angle of the incline. Geometry, enshrine. We trying to find the value of cosine. Euclid and you know. We know the meaning of theorem. Turns out we know math is the language of universe. Let's go. Tell me, how to proceed? How to system go too easily? Math is not as boring as it seems. Geometry's ahead, but the baby, yeah. Cause all I need is simple geometry to make my life seem it's all about math. We're gonna take this path to learn it like you should. May I request Veer ma'am to share her thoughts about the presentation?
Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, teachers. What a brilliant, visual treat this was. And not just visual, but I think, I've seen many presentations on geometry and how, shapes and patterns and, life and spirituality, all of them are connected. I think the way you presented it, the way you have curated this whole program, taking us around the world, making us, feel like we've got wheels under our feet and something that we're just longing to do. I think at this point of time, where everybody wants to just get out and it's so timely. And of course, very, very well presented, very well researched. I think even the way you have curated the pictures and explained each pattern and the names and what they stand for, very informative. And generally so much of information can get very baffling for the audience, but this was engaging. And each shape and pattern and each monument that you are showing us was it has left an impact. I don't know what to say. I mean, I've seen presentations on this topic before, but the way this was presented has really made a big difference. Really very well done. And I think also the way you brought in travel and geography and spirituality and mathematics, this beautiful integration, so many fields. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Really very well done. Very, very well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Veer ma'am, for your encouraging words.
Thank you so much, Veer ma'am, once again for your encouraging words. And now may I request Shyam sir to please share his views about this presentation. And before I do so, I would just like to introduce our in-house genius resource, Shyam sir, to the students of grade 11. Shyam sir, he is an independent research working in the domain of foundations of science. His research interests range from philosophy to theoretical physics, mathematics, and cognitive science. He is the recipient of Honoris Merito from the Brazilian Academy of Philosophy. He is also a corresponding member of the Academy since 2018. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Albert Einstein Fellowship 2020 from the Einstein Forum at Potsdam and Kaput, and is a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. As a primary editor, he has edited various highly interdisciplinary volumes to disseminate and address the issues underlying the foundations of sciences by gathering world's leading scientists and intellectual leaders like Noam Chomsky, Roger Penrose, Martin Rees, Daniel Dennett, A.C. Grayling, Nicholas Humphrey, and many, many others. It's really our privilege to have Sham sir over here. Sham sir, please, may I request you to please talk something about this presentation. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it was very too much humbling for me to hear so much about myself. But I think what Bir ma'am has said, I would definitely agree with Bir ma'am that it was very
Sham,
well.
sir, so sorry to interrupt you. If you could just switch on your camera, children would love to see you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oops, ma'am. For some reason, I am not able to turn on
Okay,
my
no problem, sir.
camera.
No problem. No problem, sir. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. As Bir ma'am said, I think it's very interdisciplinary, and one of the things that I loved is the way students have put in a lot of effort into this. And what I would like to say is perhaps a few words about the concept, if I may, so that some of you who are interested can research more about it. So one of the things that was left out in the presentation that was so well done was the notion of space and its relation with geometry. And I think it's very important to study the notion of space as well as geometry together, because this was the concept that brought out all of these interdisciplinary connections together. So space and geometry share a very tangled relationship, in a sense that you do need space for the geometry to exist. Even if it's sacred or not sacred, geometry needs space within it. And space needs geometry indeed, because if you don't have the space around you, if you don't have the geometrical notion, you cannot see the space around you. So they are very intertwined in this circular way. So if you see, why is it that people put a lot of emphasis on geometry in both East and West? It has, I should say, the word cult. So geometry was in a sense a cult. If you go to the time of Pythagoras and if you say something bad about a number, and you may have known the story of people in discovering the irrational numbers who got death sentence because people could not bear, and it's as if the geometry and the geometrical shapes were gods. And why was it that mathematics and geometry was having that sort of emphasis, and why don't we consider it so seriously these days? And that's a very interesting question to pursue it, because the way the science has started both in East and West, it has started with the marriage with the mystery. So in the beginning, science and mystery were always married together. But right now, in modern science, mystery was always separated from science. But when people have started, people thought that space had a very interesting notion, in the sense that everything needs space within it. So your room needs space. The time also needs space. So if you have to carry the time with you, it may be a sand clock in olden days. Sand clock needs that the sand has to fall from point A to point B. So even the notion of time is grounded in space. So people thought that the whole secrets of universe, because the space is there between our brain, the space is there between our thoughts, space is there between our body, as you have showed, that cellular space. So space pervades everything. There is not a single object in the universe that do not have space. Even vacuum has space. So people thought that this sort of omniscience is a remnant of God. So space in that sense corresponded to the notion of God, because it pervaded into every single aspect of life. So if I have to ask you an interesting question, can you show me the space in your room? And we all will often take it for granted that if I ask you that, can you show me any space in your room? You immediately say, oh, there is a lot of space in my room. But can you actually show the space? And when I ask this question to the students, the interesting thing that they would do is that when I ask them, can you show me the space? They point to the both walls. They say, here is the space, and they move their hand. So while they're moving the hand, they're pointing to the walls, but not to the space. And this is a very interesting aspect that you have to figure out. When I ask you to show the space, you cannot point to the space. You have to point to the walls and then derive the notion of space. So space without geometry is impossible. And this was the first introduction of geometry into the abstract notion of space, which we right now call the Cartesian coordinates. Descartes realized that without this geometry, without pointing to two axes or two walls or two houses or between the two walls of a box, you cannot have a notion of space. Space, in a sense, is jailed by geometry, and also freed by geometry. So this is a very interesting thing that one has to understand. And the second thing is the a priori and a posteriori status of space and geometry. So why people thought that sacred geometry is somehow hinting at the space was so sacred is because of this a priori nature. So humans have been fascinated by something that is a priori. So let me explain what is this a priori. So a priori is something that is given to us. We don't derive it, but it is given to us. In a sense that if you look at the triangle, none of the triangles that you have shown or I have seen in my life are an actual triangle. Because triangle, according to Euclid, is made up of 3 lines, and lines, according to Euclid, have no breadth. Literally no breadth. They have only length. No width, no breadth. So any triangle that we see in the real world is a representation of a triangle, but not the real triangle at all. So the question that people thought was that how can we never see a triangle, not a circle, not a parallelogram, but still how can we represent it? And we all get the concept of an absolute triangle or a platonic solid, but in the real world, we cannot represent it at all. So that was the key to discover this a priori nature of geometry, which is to say that geometry is already there within us. This a priori nature is already there in our minds. What we to communicate to do is that we invent this geometry of shapes, of triangles, of squares, and so on. This is just for our communication purpose. Just as how we write A in caps and multiple fonts, we are all representing the same A, absolute A. But in different fonts, we also represent the same absolute triangle, but using different shapes. So this was very important to people, this a priori nature of geometry. But now that has changed a lot after the invention of relativity and quantum mechanics. Now a priori has become a posteriori because we have seen that geometry also shapes itself up as we progress in science. Now, final thing that I wanted to say is how is our cognition, the way our brain is structured and the way we are structured is dependent on the way we look at the space itself. So just imagine humans have this axis symmetry. When you stand up, you see the world as it is presented to you, as it is thrown to you, if I have to use the word thrown. So world is always thrown at you. So you see this axis symmetry. You see everything from top to bottom. And you see these symmetries according to the eye structure inside you. So how much does that shape the geometry of the nation? And how much does that... Okay. How much...
Neeraj sir, 1 minute. Just
Sorry.
How much that shapes the geometry around us. And that's a very interesting thing. So if you are a bat, or if you're a spider, or if you are an amoeba, what would be the notion of geometry for them? If amoeba has to do mathematics, would it ever discover Pythagoras theorem? If a bat has to do geometry, and bats do geometry, a bat hanging on a tree has to, using echolocation, somehow chart out the geometry of space. So where does bat geometry and human geometry meet? And where is this common container that all of these geometries can be thrown together and they simultaneously exist? And since you spoke about architecture, the notion of architecture is also very sacred. In a sense, if you compare the modern architecture and the ancient architecture, if you see the modern houses, we always see and crave for the space in the houses. And it's a very interesting concept. You have to listen carefully what I'm saying. So modern geometry and modern architecture always focus on the space within our houses. But ancient architecture always focused on houses within the space. Now you may ask, how does this change at all? How does space within the house and house within the space matter? And it makes a hell lot of difference because the hinge where you keep is very different. So if you go to Gandhi's ashram in Sabarmati, or if you go to old houses, very ancient houses, you feel a sort of a comforting peace and solace within you. And if you go to some chapels and very, very ancient churches, why do you feel this comforting solace to it? Because the comforting solace is there because the primacy of those days was to have the house within the space, not the space within the house. But modern architecture, due to capitalism and urbanization and all sorts of things, we always focus on having space within the house, but we forget that the very house is within the space. So ancient principles of sculpture, and even if you look at the art of sculpting, if you take an abstract stone, a sculptor has to always figure out the space within the stone to carve the elephant out of it. So there are two ways, as famously said, to carve an elephant. One is to actually carve an elephant, and the second is to actually remove from the stone what is not an elephant. So what ancient people again did in the case of sculpting was to actually figure out the space within the rock. And to figure out the space within rock is very hard concept. The same within architecture. All the architectural monuments that you have shown, they all focused on having the house within the space, not the space within the house. And because they put the hinge on the space and the primacy on the space, they could extract the geometry from it. And because they could extract the geometry, it became a common language that connects us, the spiders, the rats, the bats, and everything else. So I would leave you with this question, that how would a bat think? What would the geometry of a bat look like? Or an amoeba or a bacteria? Would they ever come up with a Pythagoras theorem in their evolution? Would bacteria, can you make a bacteria prove Pythagoras theorem? And it's a very interesting thing. You can go to a biology lab, take a Petri dish, and figure out, can these bacteria somehow know and innately the Pythagoras theorem within them? Now that's up to you to explore, and thank you very much again to Anita ma'am and everyone for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Shyam sir. Thank you so much for the in-depth insight. Thank you. Now, before I call upon
ma'am, just 1 second. Shyam sir, thank you so much for such a deep insight and such a beautiful way of explaining things. And you have given a homework to me. So definitely with my bio students, I'll try to live up to your expectations, sir. And thank you so much for coming. Over to Shruti, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. True enough. Really, Shyam sir, it was quite deep. Now, before I call upon Neelam ma'am and Nitika ma'am, I'm very happy to share with you all that today here amongst us, we have an alumnus from our Podar Powai first batch, Miss Radhika Kaushik. She has done her graduation with a BS in mathematics and specialization in data science from the University of California, Irvine. So I would like her to just share her opinion about this presentation. Radhika, may we have you, please?
Of course. Hi, everyone. Hi, Anita ma'am. Thank you, Shruti ma'am, for the wonderful introduction, and also Anita ma'am for inviting me to talk today. And also Ishita for, in the beginning, for introducing me. I just want to quickly come on and share my thoughts on this wonderful assembly, and just a little bit about myself right in the beginning. I am, as Shruti ma'am said, I was part of the RN Podar, the first Powai batch, and I just graduated with a bachelor's in science in mathematics and data science from University of California, Irvine. So I am very actually familiar with sacred geometry, and like I did take classes in fractal geometry as well. And through this entire process of my 4 years of studying math and pursuing a degree in it, it's just been a very I would say difficult process to understand these concepts and kind of gain a better understanding on them, because they are so abstract, as Shyam sir mentioned. And but overall, I would say that this presentation was so incredible and very enriching for how thorough it was, how in-depth and well explained it was. And might I say that the hosts of this travel TV show have done an incredible job, and their enthusiasm and just their energy was very, very heartwarming. And I think that they would make wonderful TV hosts, podcast hosts, in case they do want to pursue that in the future. But I'm a visual learner, so for that, I think the pictures and how they explained it definitely did a very good job. They did a very good job, and I was able to understand better through the pictures and how they explained it. And overall, as Anita ma'am said too, they did a wonderful job showing us how to travel the entire world from the comfort of our own bedroom. So this is something that we have been missing. And of course, this is a very difficult time, and doing everything online has been very challenging. But I think overall, this presentation was very smooth, very lovely. And I wish all the students the best of luck in whatever they do want to pursue in the future. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you.
So nice to see you, Radhika.
Ma'am, actually, I wanted to share something about Radhika. So, a couple of days back, she had messaged me saying that, "Ma'am, I have graduated from this university, and I want to come back to school and give something to school, whatever in whichever ways. So, whatever philosophy you shared with your alumni." So she got back, and that touched me so much. I said, "You keep coming to the school, and you will find out a way, like B ma'am says, to give back to your school." So I was really touched with her message,
What a
ma'am.
pleasant surprise. And Radhika, thank you so much. And so happy to hear that, you've pursued, this course and combined it with data science. I think this is the cutting edge now. So are you still in California?
So right now I'm actually in Mumbai. So I finished my last semester in Mumbai because everything went online. But I'm actually going to be returning next month for my employment opportunities there. So as Anita ma'am said too, I really did want to kind of give back to the school, and it's a very difficult process too to kind of understand, because 11th and 12th grade, even though I was only in Podar for a very short time, but I think it's the most transformative period because it's right before you're going to college. And so I think it's very important to kind of have that mentorship and have that person that you can look up to, or even kind of understand a little more from a student's perspective as opposed to a counselor's perspective or a teacher's perspective.
And we really, really look forward to, the alumni coming back and sharing their journeys with us, because that for us is giving direction to our current students, So it really helps. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you so much. And now I take this opportunity to call upon our eternal source of inspiration to please share her views, Neelam ma'am.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I just want to say, what are my feelings? I'm breathless, I'm mesmerized, I'm captivated. The students have done such deep and wide research. Their presentation has been so professional, and the narration of each trip that they took us to was really, really beautiful. We actually felt we were being guided there. So I must tell you, there has been so much of brilliance on display right now, from Avneeta ma'am's speech to Shyam sir's speech, who is our in-house genius, and Radhika, our alumni. That is what we want our alumni to be. What Shyam sir said, I just remembered about space. But before that, I must tell you, students, I was always the literature teacher's delight and the maths students' complete despair, because my maths has always been terrible. But seeing that I could never escape it, because geometry is all around us, has been really quite an eye-opener. So I just remembered Anthony Garrett Lisa had once said, I think the universe is pure geometry. And now it just comes back to mind. I think the universe is pure geometry and dancing beautifully in shape, twisting around and dancing over space-time. Now that Shyam sir has mentioned, I remember what he said about space-time, and there's a hyphen in between. So, space and time are one. Your presentation has also made me reflect on the Buddhist perspective of this. Each person is a microcosm that reflects the macrocosm of the universe. And guess what? They are all interconnected. And again, Shyam sir has left you with something to ponder about. I'm going to leave you with something. How are you interconnected to the, say, an amoeba, the chair that you're sitting on? Shyam sir will tell us about quantum physics. And my special congratulations, I've never done it before, but I would love to do that right now, to Anita ma'am very quietly and very humbly, I think she comes up with performances that are so brilliant. I love your non obtrusive style of functioning as a matriarch in the place where you are. Therefore, salute to you for all these wonderful things that you are doing there. And students, Shyam sir, I would have failed in your class. Huh? You're too brilliant for me. Students, I'm super proud of you all. You did a brilliant job. It is so mesmerizing, so beautiful that I'm indeed feeling quite breathless. And yes, as Amita ma'am said, we all want to run to all those places and you can be our guides. So very soon we will be there. Good luck. Until then, stay safe and hearty congratulations. Thank you very much, Shruti ma'am.
Thank you, Neela ma'am. It's Shruti ma'am and her entire class, ma'am. Thank you so much. So congratulations to the
Neela ma'am. Thank you very much. And I hope after today, you will start loving geometry even more. And you will wish to learn geometry. Now, I would like to call upon Nitika ma'am to please express her views. Nitika ma'am.
Yeah, sorry. Good morning, everyone. I think a lot has been said by Beer ma'am, Shyam sir, Neelam ma'am. And I think what Shyam sir said was so esoteric. What I speak will be an anticlimax. So I think, I should have spoken before he spoke, because the way he's put things into perspective, it's beautiful. And the kind of presentation that we've seen here, very, very beautiful. You know what reminds me? I can only speak through my experience, like what Einstein once said. So when you go, I've of course not visited these places, but whenever you go to visit any architectural site or any, maybe a spiritual, a church, and especially built, by maybe in the 50s, 1800s and 1900s and whatever, what strikes you is the splendor, the intricate style of architecture, and you don't give much thought to the maths or the geometry that might have gone behind it, or the physics that might have gone behind it. And I think these entire presentations did help me go back and think that yes, that we can, of course, it's an interdisciplinary approach, which I'm really very fond of. I always believe that one discipline, like ma'am has already mentioned about the microcosm and the macrocosm, and I've always believed that yes, we can do such a lot in the interdisciplinary realm, because everything lends itself to it, or it has a ripple effect, basically. So a wonderful presentation over here by your students, Shruti ma'am. Very well presented, exemplary style, everything beautifully presented. Thank you, students, for having us here. We would have missed this visual treat. And like I said, now I think even I'll have to go back to my geometry. Thank you, Shruti ma'am. Thank you, Anita ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for actually showing the perspective. And now I would like to call upon any other teacher who would wish to express her views. Any teacher who would love to express her views. If Beer ma'am, Anita ma'am, Nitika ma'am, and everyone permits, I would like to share a couple of things here.
Yes.
May I, ma'am?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, ma'am, this was an experience of a lifetime, working and collaborating with the students to make this show. And I would really like to say that the entire job was the students' job, except for telling them the theme. Like when I expressed my interest in sacred geometry and I showed them all these things, they were more than excited. And not a single student actually resisted saying, ma'am, we want to do some other theme. And they were also excited. The practice sessions that we used to have, ma'am, they used to be at night, 9 o'clock, because all the students had commitments at different times. But I should tell this, that even at 9 o'clock, when we expect that everyone is damn tired, the students used to be so energetic, like their energy and enthusiasm was absolutely infectious. The same tone, the same energy level that I used to hear in the morning, 9 o'clock class, when they used to say good morning, ma'am, at 9. The same I used to hear at 9 before the practice. It used to be good evening, ma'am. And then they used to start. So their energy and enthusiasm actually motivated even me to do better in this. So all credits go to the students, and I had a real wonderful time learning and working on this project with them. Thank you, students.
Thank you. Shruti, I have to say this, that, there is this very famous quote about teachers. It says a teacher has to be, not to be, a sage on stage, but a guide by the side. And today, if I look at how, teaching and learning is happening in our school, and the way children are, taking that, responsibility of their own learning, and the teachers are just guiding them, coaching them like mentors and like facilitators in the true sense. That is the first time I'm seeing that happening. And for me, that's a big high. I mean, that's, I think, the purpose of teaching, when we make them self-directed learners, so that they are learning, because you just have to guide them, show them the way, and they'll do it. So your enthusiasm also passes on to the children. So it's a two-way process. So if you are enthusiastic about a topic and a theme, and you're sharing it with the children, they reciprocate it. So it's a totally a mutual, journey that you do together, mutual reciprocation. So you're traveling together, and that has been the best part of, these last 4 months. We've explored ways of interacting with children which we've never done before. So, and time and space have actually lost, they're no longer limiting to us. I mean, they're really now limitless, So,
actually, I have never met once. I've never met these students even once. But this was a platform where we could meet each other, and we bonded with each other. Our wavelengths started matching, and students now do not have inhibitions when they talk to me. They are comfortable talking to me and sharing their ideas. Like if I used to come up with an idea, students used to say, "Ma'am, can we do it this way? Can we do it?" And I used to say, "Yeah, let it go your way. I have no issues." So they were like so reciprocative, and so
lovely.
It was really exciting. It was an exciting.
I think it's very important for the teacher to also feel the joy, for the children to, of course, and also for the teacher to enjoy the lesson. And I think what you're saying about them being so engrossed and involved showed in the presentation, because the attention to detail and the way they presented it was flawless. So you could see that there was a very high level of involvement and engagement. So,
yes, ma'am. Even
and
small
I want to just say that, what you said about space and housing the space, and what is that, space in the house and house in the space. I think that has just left such an impact on me. I mean, it is so true, because we generally look at space in the house. We never look at house in the space. It's something really deep. I want to really ponder and maybe talk to you about this a little more in detail.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
A private lesson from you, Shyamsa.
Thank you so much, Bea. Thank you, Shyamsa. Thank you, Neelam, ma'am. Over to you, Swara.
Swara, before you start, I would
like to convey my warm gratitude to respected Veer ma'am, Nitika ma'am, Shyam sir, and Neelam ma'am for gracing our event and sharing their thoughts. A special thanks to all the teachers. Last but not least, I thank you all my friends for showing your interest in the program. I once again thank everyone for making this program successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Veer ma'am. Students, you should know ma'am was not well. Thank you, Veer ma'am, for joining us. It's always a treat and pleasure to have you with your kids, ma'am.
Completely fine once I joined.
No. Thank you so much, ma'am. Neela ma'am, thank you. Nitika ma'am, thank you. Congratulations, students. Shruti ma'am.
Thank you so much for having us here. It was a wonderful session. Thank you, students, once again.
Thank you, ma'am.
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 Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Neela ma'am. Congratulations, students. Thank you so much, Shyam sir. And when you do this,
Thank you so much, ma'am. I mean, it was a wonderful thing, and as everyone said, Bir ma'am, Neela ma'am, and Nitika ma'am, that you are very silent, but yeah, you even Ashwati ma'am is there. I think she is she there. Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Good morning, ma'am.
Ashwati ma'am,
Yeah.
good morning, good afternoon, and thank you so much.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good morning and good afternoon has become so overlapping.
I know.
Brilliance has become very overlapping now. You know, in this, the kind of stuff our kids are putting out, so proud. Huh?
Shyam sir, I would really like you to speak something about this geometry of.
Yes, sir. I would also like you to describe the space in the house and house in the space.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the olden architectures, I mean, all of the students have showed it such wonderful pictures they have obtained, and especially the flower of life and seed of life, and the fish that they come up with the Latin name. I forgot. Pisces. Okay, something of that sort. Okay, so
bladder of the fish. I think that.
The bladder of the fish. Because so what people thought was that it's a very interesting thing that in olden days. I mean, I wonder when was the last time some of you have even looked at the sky. When was the last time you looked at the sky? So if I just ask this question, I get surprising replies. Maybe the last time I looked at the sky was during solar eclipse, or when the rocket was launched, Tesla. I mean, somehow the sky has been disconnected from us due to the skylines that we have, and the buildings, the skyscrapers that have come about. The notion of sky is now totally absent to us. We may just look at it as an accident, but it is not an integral part to us. But what happened in ancient time was that sky and earth and the 5 elements with which the 5 platonic solids were associated, and the 6th one, of course, the essence of the universe, these are so connected to them. They are as if the daily things that they interact with. They get up, they go on to the space using the earth, and they look at the space using the sky. They breathe the space using the air, and they know that they could see the space using the fire that they had. But again, the fire was also the representative of space. But we cannot experience all of it because we use tube lights, and we barely know that tube light has a sort of a space within it. Or we may use we are in buildings, we are jailed inside these buildings, so we don't even have the notion of the space actually existing. So what I was trying to refer was that in olden shrines and buildings, and even the normal houses, the huts that you can see, the important thing that was the part of their thing was that space was always there as a primal existence. So these things make a lot of difference. Let me give you a very simple example. There is something called commutativity in mathematics. You all know what is commutativity, right? So A into B is equal to B into A. That's a commutative property. So what happens is that in real life, most of the things that we see are not commutative in that sense. Suppose let me give you an example. Wearing a shoe and wearing a socks. So that follows an order. That is not a commutative property. So if you wear a shoe first and a socks later, and if you wear a socks first and a shoe later, they are two different things altogether. So these properties do not commute. In the same way, if you actually have a space and build a house within it, or if you have a house and plan to have space within it, these are in a sense totally non-commutative. So I hope I made some more sense. I should have given this example that time, that when you actually have space as a primal existence and build the architecture around it and respect it, because in olden days space were associated with God. So if you read Rig Veda, if some of you are well versed in Sanskrit, and if you go back to Rig Veda, the first Vedas, or even in Sam and Yajur Veda, or in some of the Upanishads, and even in Manusmriti, or if you actually look at the space was always addressed as a deity. So to start any ritual, you have to, of course, start with the space itself, because that's a very basic requirement, I presuppose, because without space, you cannot do any ritual. So what used to happen was that in architecture, space was always hinged as a primal thing. But later on in the modern architecture, the notion of space is disconnected to us. All we care about is that how much space we can have in the room. But how can you have the space within the room when the room itself is not within the space? And room is not within the space because you don't have space around. You have other buildings around. So how do you see the space? How do you see the space flowing? So just as the way we have ventilation in a house, we also need a ventilation for space. So the ventilation of the air is directly proportional to the ventilation of space, even mathematically and physically, if you calculate the hydrodynamics of it. So space had this very interesting feature those days, that ventilation, just we care about the air movement. The same way, there was also a space movement. That's very hard for us to even comprehend. How does the space move? Does it have legs to move? But indeed, space has its own motion. Space is always a flowing container and a sort of a secretive thing, but people cannot comprehend it these days because our vocabulary changed. We look at the space as, oh, please give me some space, I'm not well. Or maybe there is a creative space that we are planning to host. These are the vocabulary that if you look at the Google and actually type the word space and see what is the recent hits on that word space. And if you go back to ancient time and ask them what does space mean to you, and even a normal guy, maybe in ancient time, a shoemaker, or maybe a priest in a temple, if you go and ask them what does space mean to you, and if you ask even a modern, highly educated physicist, they are totally different views. So the way the word we use, the word space, is totally gone, and I should say it got corrupted over this modernization. So that's what I was referring to when I said about having space within the house and house within the space.
Very true. Yeah, very true.
Wonderful, Shyam sir.
Very true, very true.
Whatever we say about your genius is going to fall short.
No, ma'am.
We are so proud to breathe the same air as you, Shyam sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shyam sir.
Thank you, sir.
We should have a Zoom
yes, ma'am.
call. Clear all our doubts. And you should address okay.
If I'm qualified, I'll be, ma'am. I don't know a lot of things myself, but yeah. Because students and other people always ask me questions that I don't have any answers. And they're such simple questions, I should say, but answering them is so hard sometimes. That's the nature of the question and answer.
That's your charm, and it's the mark of a genius to be so humble.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anita, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Anita, ma'am. It was wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am, for coming, taking out some time to be a part of it. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
I first joined
it's
the
very
live
encouraging for the students, very encouraging for me also personally, for the teachers and for all the students, ma'am.
It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye then. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Teachers, please stay here. Powai teachers. Many congratulations to all of you and Shruti ma'am. Wonderful job. I've already written a message in the group.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great job and good job.
Ma'am, we can leave, right?
Yeah.
The other is also excited.
I think he wants to come in.